primitive building. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Chrissy and this is Barefoot in the Garden. We're barefoot today, y'all. So happy. Yes. So today's a primitive living video. If primitive living was an animal, it would be my spirit animal. First and foremost, I just want to pay homage to those indigenous tribes out there who still operate and use the adobo brick building. I just think it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, look at these buildings that they build out of clay, out of sand, out of earth. It's just absolutely amazing. I admire the engineering behind it all. I admire the thought behind it. So first off, I'm paying homage to all those tribes out there that still use these methods. It's just absolutely incredible. I encourage you guys to do a little research into how indigenous tribes build. You'll be amazed. So if you can see this little guy here, I just made this out of 4 pieces of scrap wood. This top and the bottom one actually came from a pallet. And then this is just some leftover 4x4s that I had from making the fence. We have a lot of clay soil here in Texas. And when I started gardening, I was just kind of bummed out that we couldn't utilize the clay soil, that I was gonna have to outsource or compost or just create my own beautiful soil for my plants to grow in. So I started thinking of different kind of ways that I can use the clay, because I just never wanted to just like not use it. It's so beautiful. It's like so muddy. I just think it's awesome. So I finally found a way to use it. I know a lot of you guys will be completely, turned off by the idea of being barefoot in the garden and barefoot in the mud. To each his own. I do not judge you. This is just how I like to do things. I like to be kind of raw with it. So today we are making our own clay bricks, because eventually we're gonna have a whole clay hut teepee going on back there. So I have to start somewhere, and today we're starting with making clay bricks. So I'm just gonna take this handy little guy here, and I made it to the size that I want my bricks to be. So they're gonna be pathway bricks. So I want them to be pretty large. You can use less of them. If I were to make smaller bricks, I'd have to make more. So I figured that I'd make this kind of elongated rectangular shape, and I'll get more bricks out of doing it that way. So let me take you over here to my little mud bath. I picked this spot because it was kind of hilled up next to my walkway. It kind of had like a little mound right here. So I wanted to get rid of the mound, and I said, I could use that clay. Now, when it comes to mixing, you kind of just want to eyeball it. Add a little bit of water at a time. Add a little bit of leaves at a time, because you don't want too much of one ingredient. You kind of want it to balance out well. So just add a little at a time. I feel like a big kid, like... Dun, 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 dun. I want to say I mixed everything around for about 10 minutes. And if I could do one thing different next time, I would either use smaller leaves or just use some spent hay, which would be a lot easier to mix in than these really, really big leaves. So I'm pretty satisfied with the consistency at this point. This is kind of how you want it to look. You don't want any water splashing around. You want it to hold shape when you press in it, and you will be able to feel it in your feet, like when it's ready. Just trust your intuition and you'll be fine. So I have my little contraption resting on top of a flat plank, so that when I fill it with mud, it will have something flat to rest on to form the shape. I don't want it forming the shape of the grass, so make sure if you're going to use some kind of build like this to have a flat edge on the bottom so that you can hold your shape. So when filling your mold, you want to make sure that you're pressing it in. You don't want to have a lot of air pockets inside of the clay. So when you're filling it in, just make sure you're pushing down and kind of poking your fingers in it every now and then, just to get all those air pockets out. One reason why I'll never use leaves again is because some of the leaves in my area that I collect are attached to the tree on a really thick stem. And when trying to incorporate the leaves into the clay, I was getting poked by a lot of the stems. So I know that my hay also has some pretty thick pieces in it as well. But I think I'll be able to easily pick out the big pieces of hay rather than have to like detach a whole bunch of little stems from leaves. So if you don't have really small leaves, I would suggest either using straw, grass, or hay so you don't have to deal with the whole stem issue. I also highly encourage you to use what you have at hand. So if you do happen to have leaves that are larger and have bigger, larger stems, maybe you can just hack at the pile of leaves first with a machete or some type of blade to just chop down the pieces some, so you don't have to worry about, those bigger pieces.
What you doing?
Trying to cut this out.
Oh.
So what I'm doing here is just taking a hacksaw blade that is clearly not attached to the hacksaw, and I'm just sliding it down the sides of the frame to kind of separate it from the wood. I didn't want it to bind to the wood and then not be able to get it out of the mold. So you don't have to use a hacksaw blade, maybe just something straight so that you can, detach it from that mold. The longer you let it sit in the mold, it firms up and hardens really quickly. So separate it from the mold before it hardens and you're stuck with it. That's a brick.
What?
That's a brick. Okay, not too hard, babe.
Oh.
Not too hard. You gotta keep the shape.
Oh no. Oh, stop.
Stop. Whoa, don't you step on that. No, ma'am. Maybe we could press some rocks into the top. For a decorative effect.
Okay.
Your turn. All right, so here we have. Hey, Zozo. All right, we had a casualty. My baby knee planted right in the bottom of it, but it had held up most of its integrity. So I just did some little stones in here just to add a nice little aesthetic. So I think it's going to take a week to dry. Good thing that I decided to slide it out of the mold because I can continue making more and save time rather than have to wait 1 week and then make another one. That's just crazy.